Howdy folks, Max Clark here. I am the camp director for YMCA Camp Jackson and coming to you with another video talking about one of our trips. And today we're going to talk about the Rocky Mountain Ultra Packer. Now this is brand new for 2024 and it is a 2-week long trip. We're recommending ages 15 to 17 on this one. And a little background on where did this trip come from? Why do we make it? Why do we offer it? So a couple years ago we started running the Rocky Mountain Adventure, which was an experiential trip to Colorado, and in that trip we covered a wide variety of activities. So there was some time doing some backcountry hiking and camping. There was also some car camping, day hikes. There was time to explore towns like Salida and Buena Vista and kind of just do a lot of different activities. And 100% of the kids said it was great. 100% of the kids. And the staff said a great itinerary too. So sure enough, we are still offering that. So the Rocky Mountain Adventure is still an offering at Camp Jackson. But one of the things that came out of when I sat down with the kids and I said, what would you have liked to have done more of? That was the question. And almost everybody mentioned we would have loved to have more time backpacking, more time in the high country. And I said, would you do the trip again? Would you sign up to do Rocky Mountain Adventure again? And all of the kids said, absolutely. We would do the same exact trip all over again. It's that great. And then I said, well, what if I offered one that was exclusively just going to focus on backpacking? And they all said, yeah, that would be like a great second, right? To do Rocky Mountain Adventure, and if there was going to be a Rocky Mountain Adventure 2, this is what it would be. So there you go. That is some of the background. I took what the kids offered to me and said, great, I'll make something happen for you. So we are offering Rocky Mountain Ultra Packers, what we're calling it. I don't know, it's kind of got a Green Bay theme to it, the Packer. I don't know, that's my little thing. Okay, so on the website, that's what you're looking at right here. You can see the description of kind of what I just talked about and where you can register for it. Okay, without further ado, let me jump into what does this trip look like in terms of travel, transportation, and a trail itinerary. So step one, when they get to camp, we are not wasting any time. Sorry, wrong page. We are not wasting any time at Camp Jackson. They are going to basically come, they're going to meet each other, we're going to do some team builders, they're going to start packing because literally after the first night, they're going to leave at 6 in the morning and drive halfway. Now, unfortunately, because this trip is in Colorado, there's a bit of travel that we have to incorporate into this. No big deal. We still make the the road trip pretty fun. One thing as a camp director, I just didn't want our travel plan to include like staying at a hotel or at some public campground along I-80. This is I-80 right here. And so we've worked it out. We got a great relationship with YMCA Camp Kentucky. So they actually are going to drive down and camp at Camp Kentucky for the first night. And then the second night they're going to drive to YMCA Camp Jackson in Colorado. You're going to see we passed Denver and Colorado Springs. We're passing Pueblo. Little trivia for you. That is my hometown. That is where I grew up. I was born in Denver, but grew up in Pueblo. And they're going to stay at YMCA Camp Jackson. Another little trivia for you. That is where I went to camp as a kid. So when I grew up in Pueblo, went to Camp Jackson. I worked there as a staff member, and eventually I ran Camp Jackson as director for 4 years before meeting my wife, who's from the Midwest. So there you go. That's how I got to Camp Jackson. All right, so they're going to drive down, stay at Camp Jackson. Now at Camp Jackson, this is a very similar start to Rocky Mountain Adventure, and the reason for that is because I need to gradually acclimatize the campers to being in the high country. Okay, so we're going from relatively low altitude to significantly high altitude. All right, and I need the kids their bodies to adapt to that before we just go launch out into hiking at 11,000 feet. I have done that before after moving here to Wisconsin, have gone back to Colorado and thought I could just hit the trail for a backpacking trip and start at 10,000 or 11,000 feet and just got smoked. And ended up having to do a spike camp for a day just to let my body catch up for just getting used to thinner oxygen. Okay, so they're going to come to Camp Jackson, and at Camp Jackson they're going to do some day hikes. They're going to, get used to being up in the high country. This is about 8,500 feet. I'm going to switch maps over to more of my trail mapping stuff here. And we are in 3D mode, so that is kind of cool. So this is Camp Jackson's location right here. We're just in the foothills, and this is the wet mountains of Colorado. So the highest peak there is 12,000 feet. They aren't going to climb that, but a little trivia for you. That was the first mountain of any significance that I ever climbed as a kid. I've climbed a lot more since then, a lot higher stuff, but that was my first one. It's kind of special. So after a day here, they are going to travel over here, over here to this campground right here. This is the Duckett Creek Trailhead. And so you see we're coming out of the wet mountain range, and we're going to go over to the Sangre de Cristos. This range of mountains right here, let me zoom out so you kind of see it. This range of mountains right here is called the Sangre de Cristos. And a little trivia for you, this is we always called it the Sand Dunes. I don't know what it's called now. Great Sand Dunes National Park, probably. When I was a kid growing up, let me zoom in here real quick. We got time. We got time for a little detour. Click on it. Sorry, this software really takes a toll on my internet speed. It's camp internet. Yeah, about this area. Tell me about it. Great Sand Dunes National Park. There you go. Really unique features. So actually, all the wind-blown dust from this whole plateau, for whatever reason, bottles up into this neck of the Sangre de Cristos, and just it looks like a desert. It looks like the Sahara Desert right here in the middle of southern Colorado. So kind of cool. Sangre de Cristos stretch along here. Blanca Peak, 14,000 foot. There are a bunch of 14,000 foot peaks along here. Crestone Needle, Kit Carson, Humboldt, just to name a few. Okay, but why do I like this range? Why do I like this southern Sangre de Cristo mountain range? Number one, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It is beautiful. The views are constantly spectacular. The mountains are just rugged and angular. I'm going to do a little 3D, maneuvering here, just trying to show you. It's hard to get a sense of that, but they are full of these little basins in here where ice and snow throughout time has just glaciated out all of these little these basins that you can hike through. It's dotted with lakes and waterfalls and trail networks all throughout here, and it's just breathtaking. The views absolutely breathtaking. And the second thing I really like about it is that it is relatively unheard of, right? This is not a super popular area of Colorado. It in no way does the lack of like crowds reflect on the quality of the backcountry experience. Again, this is what I'm building here. This is a trip that locals would do. If you grew up in Colorado, especially in southern Colorado, this is the kind of trip that you would go on because you knew that the crowds from Denver or all the tourists are not going to be piled into here, and you're going to get just a more, in my opinion, authentic wilderness experience. So you'll see that in my itineraries. I have avoided northern Colorado. It is just packed with people, and not what I'm looking for. Especially when there's better stuff down south. Now I'm saying that, don't tell people about that. All right, I want this to be our little secret that we have this great backpacking area in southern Colorado. Okay, so a little overview here. You can see this is the trailhead that I am starting the kids out at, and they are going to participate in 6 days and 7 let's see here, how's that work? 6 nights, 7 days of backcountry hiking, okay? And day one, they are going to start at this trailhead. It's about 9,000 feet. So we've gone from Camp Jackson, which was 8,500 feet, to this trailhead where it's about 9,000 feet. And they are going to make their way up. So I should have mentioned they are staying one night here, giving them another overnight chance of getting their bodies just accustomed to the higher altitude. Now you'll see this first day we hit the ground running. Okay, we are getting immediately up into the high country, and we're covering about 7 miles of actual hiking, but we're going to gain about 3,000 feet. So I know 7 miles doesn't sound like a lot of distance, especially if you're used to Midwestern hiking. We're covering 10 to 12 miles in a day with no problem, right? The factor is you got to factor in elevation gain. Not only is that just physically more challenging, but you are your body is going to start struggling as it gets higher up into altitude. Usually about 10,000 feet, you're going to start feeling it. So what we do is just break this up into small, achievable goals. We don't do all 7 miles all at once. What they typically would do would be to do 3.5 to 4 miles on the first half of the day, to take an extended break in the middle of the day and eat lunch and refuel, and then finish out the rest of the hike. And that is a great pace for this. Now you can see that this trail is going to take us up into some gorgeous country here. These are the Brush Creeks, the Brush Creek lakes here. And I love the 3D feature, and bear with me on it. I just want to show you the prominence here. When you are in this valley, you are surrounded by rocks and exposure. The map doesn't do it justice, but if you look at this, you have a 13,000 foot peaks, okay, overlooking an area where you are at 11,000 feet. I mean, that's over 2,000 feet of just mountainous view above you. You're camping at some lakes. I just think it's beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous country. So that's the first night, and then their second night they are going to cross over this mountain pass area here, and we're shooting for Banjo Lake. It should be about 5.5 miles. Let's take a look here. Yeah, 5.7 miles, and you can see we got a lot of up and down going on with this. Still, it's only 5.7 miles, but again, look at the amount of elevation gain and loss, and don't be fooled. Going downhill, in my opinion, is just as hard as going uphill, okay? And that might be different for younger kids. I do a lot of mountaineering, and the older I get, the more I dread going downhill, just the way my knees are. So I end up doing a lot of squats, a lot of thrusters to get prepared for doing mountain stuff. I still do a lot of mountain stuff, but okay. Now just look at this. Look at this. You're coming up out of these lakes. You're going over this ridge, but look at your view. You're looking out at all of this mountain range. Man, this is cheating here with the 3D. Golly, just gorgeous. Okay, so we're coming up and over that, looking for Banjo Lake. It's not around here. We got to keep hiking. Check out this ridge right here. I can just tell you, based off of my own personal experience and then comparing it to what these renderings can show you, this is breathtaking. And your kids are going to love it. Your teens are going to love this. Okay, so we're coming around. Looks like we're dropping down into another basin. Remember all these glaciated basins I was telling you about. Ice and snow just keep tearing out the land down here, making these more jagged and angular. So here we are. We're at Banjo Lake, and I think it got its name because somebody thought that looks like a banjo. I think it looks like a tadpole, but nobody asked me about that. So there you go, Banjo Lake. Let's just zoom out. I want to see where are we at so far. Look at the views, man. So up in this high country, right? We're hiking. Almost all of it's above tree line. They're camping at almost 12,000 feet on this day. What are you seeing up there? Well, you're seeing for sure elk. You're seeing for sure mule deer, marmots. Marmots are like big, cute, furry, gophery groundhog things that live in the high country. They have absolutely no fear of humans. They're super cool. And then there's pika. Pika are like these little squeaky mice things that live up in the rocks up there. They're cool too, just to check out. All right, so look at that, man. We are about to do a big downhill day. I just love this 3D map, man. You can just see how cool. I mean, when you are down in this, you're looking up at all this and you're just surrounded by majestic mountains. All right, next day. This is called what I would call the switchbacks of doom day. Unfortunately, I don't think we can avoid it because we've got to drop down here. So you'll see from Banjo Lake. My computer is just screaming right now. I'm sorry, pushing it to the limit. Here we go. It's coming. It's coming. It's telling me stop moving around. So the next day we're covering about 9 miles. But more elevation lost than gained. So they're going to come up over this ridge, and then, like I said, it's the switchbacks all the way down. For me, in my older age, I know this is a situation of pre-gaming with some ibuprofen before I go down that. All right, they're making their way along, and what we're looking for is finding Cotton Lake. Okay, so we're going to go down into this basin. Down into Lion Gulch. Now, the mule deer are typically down here in these thickets and stuff. And at the time of the year that we're doing this trip, the elk are still up in high country, so you'll see them up there. It's pretty cool. All right, so we got Cotton Lake right here. Camping again, one more night. I'm getting ready for the next day. So let's talk a little bit like, what are they doing when they're camping? What's a day on trail look like? So you got to think, they're waking up, the sunrise in this beautiful mountain valley, right? With this pristine alpine lake. And they're getting up and they're making their breakfast and they're talking with their friends, and then they're basically just packing up their kit and heading out, walking along these trails along the way. When they have downtime, it's full of just exploring or laying out onto these sunny, grassy fields and just looking at the majesty of all these peaks. It is just a definitely a life-changing experience. All right, for the next day, we got an 8-mile day. So again, we're breaking this up, like 4 miles in the morning, take a look 4 miles in the afternoon, get back and set up. So we're coming in through here. Now, if I was them, I would come up and check this thing out. That just looks neat. I can just tell. Like, that is a unique high alpine lake. Just incredible. And I've hiked a lot of this. I can't say I've done this entire stretch of trail before, but I've done a lot of being in this area. And I can just tell you off firsthand experience that this is some of the best fly fishing, I think, in the United States of America. And so if you have a camper who is remotely interested in fly fishing, get a tag or get a license, bring a fly rod along. If you need some suggestions on what kind of tackle, I will set you up. But I've done multiple trips into here and just unbelievable trout fishing. Okay, cool. So we're gonna take the effort to go up here and camp at this lake. This is all public land, so if they want to, they can crash down here. Right? There's no need to come all the way back up in there, but I think you want to camp down by water for sure. All right, so we're getting close to Eureka Mountain. We're gonna, on the next day, come across that. And what we're doing, we're getting closer. If some of these guys have done the Rocky Mountain Adventure, they are getting close to the Rocky Mountain Adventure pathway too, and I'll show you that here in a second. But this out, you're across this side of the mountain. There's Eureka, and up to our mountain pass where Venable Peak is. My all-time favorite place on earth is right in here. and I'm sharing it with you all. Venable Peak, very cool. Multiple trips, and I've done multiple trips guiding kids into this. So Rocky Mountain Adventure, here's a little deviation for you. And they're going to camp down here. These are the Venable Lakes. You'll see I even indicated fish. This is a great lake. Great lake. Don't tell anybody about that. All right. But this is the Rocky Mountain Adventure 3-day loop they do right here. And they'll come across Phantom Terrace and then down the Comanche Lakes and down this area. So this is more of a loop. This one is a one-way. So we're camping at Venable, and then it's a 3 to 4 mile hike out. There's a waterfall situation that you can take a look at. It's not like Niagara Falls or anything, but it's pretty cool. It's a place to stop and eat lunch. And they'll come down to the Venable Trail trailhead, which is where they will spend their last night and then depart from there to head home. Okay, so let me zoom back out. I'm going to switch back over to 2D as much as I don't want to. I could spend all day just zooming around those areas there. Give you a sense of what does this look like. Okay, there you go. Looks a lot easier from here, doesn't it? The 3D sure does a lot. But you're probably wondering, how do you, if you drop your vehicles off here, how do you pick them up over here? And again, we have a whole network of volunteers that span across this whole great country of ours, and we even have volunteers out in Colorado. So our trail angels, our volunteers, are going to come retrieve the suburbans from the group and bring them over to their trailhead and drop them off. Couple final notes about this trip. I don't know. It is very much different than the Rocky Mountain Adventure, where there's no days of hanging out in a town and buying souvenirs. They can probably grab some souvenirs on the way out. This is definitely geared more towards those kids who just, when they were out on trail, were really hungry for staying out longer in the backcountry. So I think this is a phenomenal trip. I think this is a life-changing experience. And again, if you have any questions about the trip, about the itinerary, if you have questions about what gear or anything about this, or even if you say, call me and say, hey, I'm not really interested in sending my kid out with you, but I would love to plan a trip for my family. Man, I am all about getting people out in the outdoors, and 100% support getting families out in the outdoors. So I'd love to help you plan your trip if that's what you're looking at doing. All right.